Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast, focused on providing valuable information for anyone looking to undertake a new build or extension project. We'll share our tips, tricks and stories from a building designer's perspective.
Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. I'm your host, Amelia, and once again we're joined by Frank Geskus.
Hey Amelia, how are we?
Oh, I'm pretty good. We've got a bit of an interesting one today.
Yeah, you're going to ask me random questions.
Random questions, exactly. Things that have come up that customers ask us. Some of them are a bit odd, some of them are pretty common.
But they're not odd as such. They don't know what they don't know. And
exactly.
heaps of people ring us.
Oh,
say,
yeah.
Can I do this? I'm allowed to do that. I'm okay with that. So I'll be interested what you're going to throw at me.
Well, let's start with the first cab off the rank.
Mm-hmm.
Adaptability of your home over time.
So we're talking about you're going to be there a long time and how you potentially adapt for having young children going to teenagers. Nowadays, maybe the adult children are going to hang around with their partners maybe.
Exactly. And I mean, these days, people don't always want to sell their house and go into something else. They might be really happy in the place where they are.
It's quite common. It's like my parents had the same house for 55 years.
Oh, there you go.
And they adapted by extending the back, so I had this huge rumpus room at the back when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
No one could hear you scream. It was great.
That makes me wonder what was going on in your house that there was lots of screaming.
Maybe two brothers carrying on, and I was the biggest and oldest, and yeah, obviously they were the ones screaming. So it's planning your house. If you're building a new house, this could go for renovation, extensions, whatever you like. You're designing your house for where you are right now, and then how do you see it going forward? I look at, and I've mentioned this before, with when you've got young kids and you've got a living area, could be open plan kitchen, dining, lounge, but you also might have a separate break-off room off to the side, and we usually call that flexible space. It might have all the best intentions to be a home theatre, but it ends up being the kids' toy room. Mm-hmm. That means the toys aren't in through the lounge or whatever, and all the toys and crafts and everything can be in there. And I've got a few people I know that have done that, and I kind of wish we did it when I built my house, but we didn't, and it's all friends that did it, and it was a great idea. It works very, very well. And in those cases, the kids became teenagers, became a study area. There was a couple of PCs in there, exercise bike as they got older. Now it's turned into a craft room. So the space is adaptable, and you could say that to your outdoor space too. You can adapt that as it increases with the amount of people you want to entertain. We say that all the time. We extend decks or put a whole new deck because it's a bit tired, put a whole new roof over it for the next stage. Also look at adaptability where, and I usually ask people about my age, over 50, do you want to be here for a long time? And then I recommend to consider the Liveable Housing Australia standards. So then you can adapt your house for the future by having level thresholds at your door. So if you've ever had a sporting injury or crutches, knee walker or worse, wheelchair, it's unobstructive going in. Your bathrooms are designed in such a way, hey, I need to put bars on the wall. I need the shower screen to come out. Mm-hmm. The walls are lined in plywood, so you can screw bars off anywhere. Interestingly enough, that's happening in all new houses. It's called the LHDS requirements under the National Construction Code in Tasmania. That's being implemented next couple of months in October. So we are designing the houses so you can be there longer term. Wouldn't it be nice that you wouldn't have to go into a special facility or a home, because then you can get home care in a house where the bathroom's been adaptable, the doors are wide enough, the hallways are wide enough, and we're not talking about a lot either. You only need, a metre clear, so you make it 1100, make the doors slightly bigger.
Yep.
Always good to have bigger doors anyway. It's easy to get the furniture through, isn't it?
I agree. Yeah, yep. Definitely.
And then you think about your sliding doors. You don't have to do this, but you can recess the sill of your sliding door so it's easy to get in and out. That's not a requirement, but I actually think it's a really good idea. So it just makes the whole place more flexible, and anyone who's had sporting injuries or any other type of injury and you're a bit incapacitated, those things are very helpful. Oh, by the way, don't put shiny, slippery tiles in.
Like gloss, big high gloss finish.
Yeah. Yeah, and they become slippery. You fall over when you're on crutches or stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Trip hazards in the floor coverings, so you transition between your tiles or vinyl or click-clack flooring to your carpet. That's minimised, no greater than 5 millimetres. I believe this is really good practice for long term because we've done plenty of jobs for elderly people. We've had to rip out the whole bathroom, like tear the house apart just to get a decent bathroom to work. So that's pretty adaptive, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. What about if you say you're a young couple and you've, obviously for your first home, you only want something reasonably small generally at that stage?
I disagree with that. We have plenty of first home buyers and they want to build their dream house first go.
Yeah, but can they afford it?
Well, that's a whole nother issue. And now that's changed massively.
Yeah, I agree.
But I believe good design allows that you can extend the house.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah. And I suppose that's adapting to the growth of the habitants.
Yes.
It's a little bit of thought that goes into how you'd be able to do that. Because you do have to think about, you want to capture sun into your living areas. Can you extend off there? It's going to block the future sun. Just thinking about, the access again. Making it easy to get around. But look, most houses can be adapted for future extensions.
And I guess it's just something that you need to let your building designer or architect know early on so that they can make provisions for that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and even how you do your roof. Have a think how the roof is done.
Yeah, because that can have a bit of a bearing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So think about how the roof might adapt so it's not going to cost you a fortune. Well, even like thinking about adding a garage on, you can't afford it now, but you can add it later. Doing an alfresco. You want more outdoor entertainment. It might be a kid's backyard. Even I consider landscaping should be thought of for adaptability for kids playing or your own hobbies out there. Keen gardener, could be veggies, hothouses, man caves, all those types of things. You do need to think about that really early on.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Converting the man cave into the she cave.
Or...
No.
we're not going to call it that.
No, we're not going to say it. We said it once, we're not saying it again. So thinking ahead with your design of your house, the site, so it's adaptable for the future. Not saying that you have to make big sacrifices or anything, it's just being smart. Then you also got to think thermally as well, how well, your heating and cooling in your house as well. So I actually, in Tassie, that's not too bad. We insulate it well. And most of the people go for the old reverse cycle heat pumps, we call them. Or as the mainlanders call it, the northerners call it the AC.
Yes, because they have it on AC all the time.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to another question. Mm-hmm. Does my spa need a pool fence, even though it's got a lid on there?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
It doesn't matter how big the spa is?
No.
You still have to have a pool fence?
Under the National Construction Code, it says anything with depth of water of greater than 300 millimetres needs to be protected.
I wonder how many spas are sitting out there with no fencing around it.
Oh, heaps.
There
but
would
you
be
ever think
tons.
about your ponds, even though ponds and fountains aren't a thing anymore.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there used to be a thing that, just think a kid can drown in this stuff.
It's true.
And I know I've had people argue with me, oh, look, it's 1.2 metres up there. Yeah, and you can grab a chair, and the kids are amazing. They can climb anywhere. They're like Houdini.
Yeah, and it's amazing what a building surveyor will actually pick up.
But it's not actually a building
design.
site because you just go buy a spa and you plonk it in the backyard.
Oh, that's exactly right.
So, yes, you need to have a compliant pool fence and gate around your spa.
Even the placement of all of your things around
Very true.
around that fencing as well. I was talking to actually one of our clients and he was saying that where the tap was, the position of the tap needed to be adjusted in terms of the height because a kid could climb up on the tap.
Oh, they're like ninjas.
And go over the fence. Yeah,
The kids
I
are
was
like ninjas.
that's
They're
insane.
awesome. Yeah, but it's the same with you putting up against a fence. You've got a paling fence, you've got rails, kids will climb it.
Oh, exactly.
I know of a case, a tragic case. It was in Victoria where a kid climbed over a barbecue, was able to get on top of the pool fence, and over he goes.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't end well.
Oh, that's awful.
It is awful. But that's the reality. No one takes this stuff lightly, so that's why there's a blanket rule.
Yeah.
Even the pools that you get from Kmart, Target, if they still sell them, I don't know. It's more than 300 ml of water. Kid can
there
drown.
would be.
Well, kid can drown a lot less than that, let's be real. But you're supposed to have pool fencing for anything over 300 ml, unless you drain it all the time. This is when you keep water in there.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, next question. Do I need a permit for my front fence that I'm building?
How tall is it?
I don't know, 2 metres?
Okay, cool. Yes.
Really?
Yep. So anything, look, I've got to clarify here. In Tasmania, under our planning schemes, I think I'm very confident it's up to 1.2. You don't have to do anything. Once you go above 1.2, you have 30% transparency through the fence.
Oh, really?
Yep. If you can prove that, you can go to 1.8 and you don't need a permit.
Okay.
Go above that, you need a permit. If you block it all off, like it's a big solid fence, needs a permit.
So if it
for
was like
planning approval.
brick or something like that.
Well, a lot of them do brick because colour bond is the same. But when you do a big brick fence or block fence, you're going to need a level of engineering as well. If you don't do that right, what do you reckon is going to happen?
It will fall over.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's some horrible examples of that as well.
So it's really not all that much different from what I can gather to having a retaining wall done.
In a lot of senses, that's correct.
Yeah.
In Tasmania, if the retaining wall is over a certain height within a certain distance of the boundary, you need a permit.
Yeah.
Which I must say is a little bit frustrating in some cases when you're just doing landscaping.
Yeah, I can understand the frustration there.
You know, it gets a little bit, I suppose, too much red tape.
Yeah. Especially for people wanting to do it themselves.
Oh, and I totally get it and I sympathise, but where I don't sympathise is where a homeowner doesn't realise he gets too close to the boundary with their retaining wall. They didn't put any drains in, and it undermines the neighbouring property.
Yes.
Now, what's on the other side? Could it be a shed?
Exactly. Could be anything.
Could be someone's spa with their fence around it.
Yeah.
And you might have a couple of tonne of water in there. It could be the house is really close and you've undermined the footing. I don't know. The average person shouldn't have to know, but you can come and ask the question. So, yeah, be very careful how you do retaining walls. And also choose the right retaining walls. Sometimes doing timber sleeper ones, if they're not designed correctly, and I've seen some wonderful failures. They look like an explosion. There's bits of timber everywhere. They've just got to be done right. And
Too much weight behind it, I'm guessing.
But you can just buy standard retaining wall systems like the stackable blocks from Island Block and Paving. They're fantastic. Albury. There are sleeper options you can do up to a certain height, but they've got limitations. But you've got to have drains, ag drains behind it. Water kills retaining walls.
Yes, too much drainage is never enough.
Totally.
I think that's in my head, yes.
Well done, Grasshopper.
I'll never forget it. All right, next question. Can I put a shed up against my front boundary?
Okay, that is depending on the zoning, but let's say just general residential.
Okay.
It's unlikely.
Oh, that's going to disappoint a few people.
Yeah, because if you're, let's just say a new subdivision, there's minimum setbacks, and I think this is everywhere in Australia you're going to have this. They're also doing this because of the streetscape. So in the general residential, you're looking at about 4.5 metres in Tasmania. To be fair, if you've got all these nice houses there, and then someone pops a shed up to put their caravan in, and it's up against the boundary, it's going to look pretty crap, isn't it?
That's going to look pretty rubbish. Yeah.
Colour-on sheds, they're not the most
They're not pretty.
beautiful
They're not
thing in the
pretty.
world. So I had this question with someone recently, and I said, where do you want to put it here? And I said, well, do you realise if you put it there, you've got a sewer and stormwater manhole very close, so you've got a side entry pit, stormwater side entry pit, and the council probably won't even give you a crossover because you're near this infrastructure. Okay, and he goes, well, I need to put my caravan. So, well, if you move it, so then the front of the garage, the front of this shed, colour-bond shed, no doubt, but we can actually make it nicer and do something else with it. In line with the house, then there's a better chance of getting it through. So a lot of the council planning does not want anything within that setback zone. Because it all looks uniform, it all looks neat, you have nice gardens, landscaping. And to be fair, landscaping looks a hell of a lot nicer than a colour-bond shed. Especially if you've got a caravan, it's a big shed. So you go to different types of zoning outside of general res, there might be an opportunity to do it.
Okay.
Because there's old parts of Launceston, some of it's really old, and they've got carports and some old concrete sheds right up against the boundary because of the steepness of the site.
Yes.
So you have got that opportunity in those cases, but in new subdivision, it's very unlikely there.
I think sometimes there's even in the covenants that you're not even allowed to have a shed in your front yard at all.
Or in your backyard.
Or in your backyard?
Yep.
Oh, that makes no sense.
They call it, they don't want to see colour bond.
Really?
Yep.
Why would they say that in the backyard though?
Well, there's certain subdivisions I've seen, through the 90s and 2000s where everyone had a shed in the backyard. But when you see it, when you've got a lot of it, it does look a bit rubbish.
Yeah, okay.
Especially some of these sheds are big and tall because they've got big boats or they've got their hoist in there, working on their cars. And fair enough, they're allowed to do that. But can look a bit ordinary. But some subdivisions will want to keep a certain style, and that's built in the covenants. So you can put a shed up, but you don't clad it in colour bond. You go then use other claddings, same as what you use in the house. If you can use the same cladding on the front of it to match your house, it doesn't look as rubbish. Mm-hmm. Even if you can design it to the same roof pitch and everything, looks even better.
Yeah.
It costs a lot more money.
It would, because it's more
But
customisation.
I believe it adds a lot more value to the house because it looks great.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, sorry to burst a few bubbles there.
Oh, that's okay. That's why we've got this podcast, so that everyone
How many
can
bubbles
learn.
can I burst?
Yes. Maybe we call the segment, how many bubbles can you burst?
Yeah, shatter people's dreams. Oh, look, and that's just part of what we do. People come with ideas. Can I do this? So we'll have a look at it for them. Generally there's no cost for that because we're just talking over the phone. We can access a lot of information on the computer. You look at real estate photos, you could look at the state list maps, you can look at aerial, Google, Street View, all sorts of stuff. And it's very helpful. And just to give them a bit of information, and sometimes we'll just say, I'm not sure. I may have to do more investigation to give you a definitive answer.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still up to the council planning department. Because there's sheds in general, we've spoken about this, you've got to consider a lot of things, like are you building over a pipeline or a Telstra line? Is it within a bushfire-prone zone? Are you in landslip? There's all sorts of stuff that you've got to consider.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's why we get lots of people that ask us.
Makes sense. Use the experts.
We'll try to be, but we've got access to a lot of information.
Yeah, we do. Lots of resources.
If you go to the council, half of them won't know a lot of this stuff. And it's not their job to know this stuff.
No.
So if they're planning looks after planning stuff. The building department there is not to give advice other than direction. They'll give you direction of what to do. Some of them might give you some help, but at the end of the day, you're going to need a designer to help you.
Oh, exactly.
A building surveyor will be able to help you as well, but a building surveyor might not know the planning requirements. We have to deal with both planning and building.
Okay, one last question.
Okay, last? Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
one more. It's actually about crossovers.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Which isn't building design, it's not National Construction Code. This is municipal.
yeah, okay. So I was wondering, can you move a crossover? Are you allowed to move it? Or can you choose where a crossover goes when you buy a block of land?
Great question. That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the last one. Can you choose where it goes? So if you look at a general residential, they do a subdivision. Generally, the crossover is installed.
Okay.
I personally think it's stupid, purely because they may not think, why would I put it on this side? Oh, because the plumbing and the water connection's on the other side, so we don't have a problem with the driveway. Yeah, but you don't want the cars coming this side because this is the northerly side. I don't want my garage on the northerly side.
No.
So there's been plenty of times we've had to flip the garage to the opposite side so the house functions better.
Because the crossover is essentially not in the spot where the
Where it makes
customer
sense. Where it actually
wants
makes
it.
sense. Or they put the connections in a really dumb spot. Look, all this happens. And to be fair, they don't know what they don't know. Again, the guys with this, I'm a big advocate of not putting the crossovers in, just have rollover curbs and then put the crossover as part of the build.
As part of the design process. Makes sense. I
So
mean, every
then we
site's
apply
different.
to move it.
Oh, so you can apply
You
to
can
move
apply. So
it. They can still reject it though, I'm guessing.
yeah, 100%. Because there's good reasons sometimes to reject it too. You may wish to put it where there's a stormwater side entry pit, so that it's a pit on the gutter where all the stormwater goes in. And you might want to, that's where I want my crossover. Well, you can't, because that's where all the stormwater goes. So
Yeah.
you might have to move that slightly.
Okay.
And you do not want to move that pit.
No, definitely not.
You might have an electrical turret. There might be a water stop valve there. There may be a Telstra turret or an NBN, turret in the ground. So there's things and ways. You can work around this, but it gets expensive. But you can certainly apply.
I guess it's also important to know what is where when you buy a block as well.
But we do that on every job. We do a full site analysis and dial before you dig, and we find all these things, and we get the surveyor to go out there to confirm where it all is and take lots of photos
Exactly.
on top of that again. So as an owner, you should know where all this stuff is, but you probably don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, but how many people would go and look into all that stuff before they actually buy the block?
It's actually really rare, but it's so easy to find.
Yeah.
It's not hard at all.
Yeah.
We do it for a lot of people, a lot of developers and a lot of the builders we work for. We do all that checking for them. And then they have that online. It's all online.
Yeah.
I wish I checked mine the first time.
You didn't?
Well, I didn't check it and I found out they didn't supply power to my block. We're still trying to figure out how this was possible.
And you call yourself a building designer.
Well, it's got nothing to do with it. The networks never, or the subdivider never installed it to my block.
Yeah, to be fair.
This happens.
Yeah.
And we've had sewer connections not installed for blocks.
To be fair, you're in a suburb that has all the infrastructure there. You would think it would have it.
Oh, it's at least 20, 25-year-old subdivision.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And, yeah, it's just one of those things. Just think you have power to your block.
Exactly.
So, got a nice little bill for that one. Yeah.
My bill's going to be worse than yours, I think, Frank.
We'll compare. So, these are all actually bring up an interesting point. If you're looking at buying a block, make sure your infrastructure's there. I've learnt the hard way.
Yeah, definitely look into that.
Yeah, crossovers, yes, you can apply with the council. Please be aware that only certain contractors can do the work.
Okay.
Because it's got to be done to municipal standard. And the council may ask you to rip out the old one.
Oh, will they?
Yep, they may ask.
At your cost?
Oh, of course at your cost.
Yeah.
You're changing it, you fix it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Don't mess up the footpath, whatever you do.
Oh, big trouble for that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll make you pull it out, do it again. Yeah, one thing you didn't ask, what about 2 crossovers?
Oh, can you have 2 crossovers?
In the right context, you can.
Okay.
Right context. What type of block do you have?
I was going to say, it would have to be maybe a corner block or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So depending on the size of the block too. Yeah. So we've done it, successfully applied. Also, widening your crossover.
Oh, can you do that?
You've got a double garage, right?
Yep.
And the door is 5.5, 5.8 metres wide.
Yeah.
It's only 4.5. It could be 6.5 metres from the boundary, but the closer it is, the harder it is from a crossover that might be 3.5. Yeah, to manoeuvre out of a 3.5 metres.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to widen this. In some subdivisions, that's not hard to do, but there also might be other infrastructure, as I've mentioned before. But what happens if they've built into your subdivision parking recesses? So you have your curb and gutter, it's not a straight line, but they actually recess it, and they've got trees planted everywhere, and it's all looking very lovely. There's a chance you may not be able to widen it or even move it.
Yeah, okay. They'll muck up
See the
there.
problem?
Yeah. There are lots to think about.
But widening crossover is a big one, especially with we do double garages a lot.
Yes, very common these days.
Very much so. So otherwise you're going to be driving partly over the grass, aren't you? And people do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't allow them to widen it.
No. Oh dear.
Anyway, you can ask any questions. We'll do this again. We'll put a pool of questions where people randomly ring us and ask for advice. Can I do this? Can't I do this? I think it's all very valuable.
I think it definitely is, because if one person's thinking it, there's probably 100 more thinking about it as well.
Of course, yeah.
All right, well, I guess take-home points are, as always, do your research.
Yeah, 100%. But hopefully there's some pointers there for each one of those questions that I've answered. Hopefully that helps you go into the right direction with a few of those things.
Definitely. All right, we might wrap it up there, folks. Thanks for listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.
Catch us later.
You're listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.